goal is to see how can we prevent symptoms of stress getting worse and leading to illness, because in the long term, if anxiety is too high, it may lead to a very high level of fatigue and maybe some physical illness. So we want to prevent this, and we want to improve our resilience so that we can continue daily to deal with what's going on, especially that now we're in like another phase where we're talking now about maybe reopening schools in May, and different places of work. So it's going to have other different impacts, and we will have to change our ways of dealing with people socially and in the workplace and in like grocery shopping and all of that. So it's a lot of adjustment and adaptations for all of us, definitely. What is stress? So stress is normal. Stress is part of our lives daily. It's been, stress has been there since the world, exists. Stress is necessary for us, for our body, for our brain to gather energy in order to fight or flight. So before, people would chase the mammoth, they would either kill it to eat and survive, or if the mammoth was too big, they would leave, running. So today we have all kinds of mammoths in our lives, and they may be invisible, like the COVID-19. So it's like this danger or threat that is present all the time, but we can't see it, but we know it's there. And so it may be, it brings on stress, like the body will, gather, like I said, energy, the heart, will beat faster. Adrenaline in a situation of stress is necessary, and it is actually very beneficial. But in the long term, that's when it can have negative impact on our health. So, as I said, stress is normal, and there's what we call absolute stress. Absolute stress is, for example, an illness, or an accident, or a fire, or an animal being attacked by an animal. That's absolute stress. Even if I tell you, oh, change the way you react or think about the situation, it's not going to save you. So you need to do something and leave. So this is absolute stress. The other kind of stress is more of a perceived stress. It's stress where we can have an impact on dealing with it using our thoughts and our attitude toward the situation. However, your body and your brain don't make the difference. Like for the brain, there is no difference between an absolute or perceived stress. So that whether it's a perception you have, even if it's not dangerous, if you perceive a danger, the stress hormone will still be created, and in the long term can have a negative impact on you. Manifestations of stress could be in terms of physical symptoms. So someone who's under a lot of stress may feel more fatigued, have a hard time to sleep, may complain of headaches, dizziness, heart palpitations, things that are more physical, backache because of physical tension. You may have aches, all over your body. So these can be physical manifestations. It doesn't mean it's dangerous. It's normal. Psychological symptoms may include an impact on your mood. So someone who's usually, has really uplifted mood can feel more sad or more anxious. Anxiety is normal also. It's normal to feel anxiety in a situation of stress. But the problem is when it's too high and when it stays in the long term. So other psychological manifestations can include also like losing memory, sometimes having a hard time to concentrate, being more irritable. So, patience is reduced, and especially in a context where we needed to stay home for most people. I know some of you work, but uh, staying home with either the family or the kids, can bring a lot of tensions, even if we love them. So it brings all kinds of symptoms that may be, like I said, physical, mental, and also behavioral. For example, someone who will isolate himself more. We are isolated physically, I mean, in person, but we still have a way of staying in contact. We know with our phones, with cameras, with the social medias. But being isolated on purpose can be a symptoms. Someone who uses drugs, alcohol, will probably or may use more if under a lot of stress or if he's not doing well. So, substance abuse doesn't take a break during the pandemic. So we need to be careful about that because, like I said, although these are they're alarm systems, and they're telling us that something, be careful, something is wrong. It doesn't mean that it's dangerous. It's just that I want you um, to be cognizant of reactions in your mind and your bodies so that you can, decide, okay, what is there I need to change to better take care of myself? Okay. Um, Stress management strategy. So how do we manage stress? First of all, if possible, ideally, we would want to avoid stress, and have no stress at all in our lives. But this, as you probably know, it's impossible. But if there are stressful events or factors that you can eliminate from your life, well, please do it if it's possible. However, the best way to prevent stress, because we will have stress in our lives, is really to take actions on what we can do and what we can control. So, for example, for weeks, we've been bombarded with the news about COVID-19 and, all the negative impacts of it, and how harmful it can be, and all the impact, financial, um, people being sick. It's kind of a negative environment. So you need to choose what you watch and what you listen to. So of course, stay informed. That's what I recommend. You need to be informed about developments and strategies and measures and what the government is advising, but pick and choose. Go to reliable sources like the federal or government websites, or the World Health Organization. Reliable sources like that, and limit your time, the time you spend on social medias and on the screen, because it can have like a negative impact on how you feel. And again, take a step back and be cognizant about what you can and cannot control. You cannot control how long this will last, or how it's going to end, or how it's going to be when we all go back to work and schools reopen and stores reopen, and will there be a second wave and all of that. But you can control your attitude. You can control if you follow guidelines or not. This belongs to you. You can control what you do at home, how you change a few things at home, if you go for walks, exercise, what you eat, um, hobbies, time you spend in hobbies, or playing with your kids, or calling people you miss. I mean, these are things you have control over, and I think we need to spend put our energies on these these parts of our lives. Otherwise, it becomes very heavy, just dwelling on everything else that is going on. So it's a suggestion to better deal with stress and anxiety. Keep busy also. For some people, it was like, you know what, it's a good, not a good thing, but there was some positive in maybe having to stay home and working less, because there may be more time if you don't have to be stuck in traffic. But still, just be careful about getting into a routine where you get kind of deconditioned. What I mean is that a routine where you lose your normal work habits, for example. So try to, go to bed and get up at regular hours, eat properly and stay active. So especially if you work from home, um, make sure you take the time to pause during the day and that you do something else than being in front of the screen. Go outside, go for walks, you know, um, enjoy your pets at home and contact people you love. It's very important to stay busy, but I don't mean to stay too busy. Take also time for yourself, especially if you're at home with everyone. Uh, you may need some time off, and that's okay. And I would also say try to be um, more accepting of not being as performant as you used to be, or if you have a to-do list, because I don't know, I think a lot of us wrote a to-do list, thinking, okay, I will have the time to do this and this at home. But, don't put too much pressure on yourself if you don't have time to do everything that was planned. That's okay too. And try to focus on the positive. So these are things I'm sure you already know, but it's good to be reminded of those strategies. Um, Negative thoughts can be are a huge enemy for us. So negative thoughts, what I call the internal dialogue, is often something that will start, like a tape player. Like it starts automatically without you even noticing or realizing that the negative thought or the negative internal dialogue is on. So take a step back when you feel negative or maybe down, you're not well. Take a step back, take a few minutes to reflect about, okay, what am I thinking right now? And try to see, well, is there another way to perceive, or another way to explain, or think about what's going on right now. So it's like a conscious decision you have to make to stop yourself and realign your thoughts. Otherwise, it's like a vicious cycle where we stay in our negative, and it affects our feelings, how we feel. It affects our behavior. So it's very important to be cognizant of this. And you have you have a tool here, and you will have access to the PowerPoint. So I'm not going to go into details and about this exercise here, but it's a suggestion for you. So, for example, let's say the situation for you right now is, okay, I heard on the news they're supposed to reopen daycares, shortly in a few weeks. So that's the event, the situation. And if your thoughts, and they could be legitimate, but if your thoughts are, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? All the kids, will touch each other. My child would get sick, and then she's going to bring it home. Then we won't be able to see my mom, who's older. She's going to get sick, and it's like this scenario, catastrophic scenario in your mind. Like I said, it's a vicious cycle, and then you feel anxious, and worried. So what you tell yourself really has an impact on how you feel. Okay. So what I recommend is really to take this, you look at the same situation. Daycares will reopen. Okay. I'm worried. Well, my child gets sick. Okay. Ideally, I wish she would not. And ideally, I wish there was no COVID, but there is. So what can I tell myself differently? Well, I'm pretty good at following, directives and preventive measures like washing hands and all of that. So I'm pretty good at that. So that is under control. I will make sure that I follow everything. I will speak to the daycare and, verify what they're doing on their side. And, the internal dialogue is more positive, and then the feeling is more feeling of, okay, it's not perfect. I'm still, a bit worried, but realistically, um, is there a high risk or no? What can I do? I feel more in control. So the action is being more in control. So it's just an example that I'm giving you. Of course, there could be hundreds of different examples, but it's just taking a step back and saying, okay, what else can I do? And I think that action, like being acting on our fears, is really key here to deal with anxiety instead of dwelling on our preoccupations, because it doesn't bring anything. I'm not sure if practicing gratitude if we can say that in English, but I'll say more, making an effort to be grateful, to think about what am I grateful for? Because some of you are going through very difficult situations right now. Yes, there's the COVID, but it could be, combined to all kinds of other issues you're going through because of the COVID or not. It could be, um, maybe it's difficult at home or financially, or someone is ill, or, whatever. So how can you focus on what is more important and more positive in your life? What are you thankful for? And every day we have an example here. If you go to bed, you may write 3 things that you're grateful for every night. But I mean, you can do that all day long. It doesn't have to be at bedtime, but really think, okay, what's going well today? Maybe you saw a neighbor, or a neighbor brought you something, a home cooked meal, or you smiled and waved at another person who was walking on the other side of the street, or you were able to see your colleagues through, a team meeting in the morning. So things like that, maybe you're able to spend more time with your family, even though it's more stressful, and, there's a lot of adaptations. There are good that is coming out of this whole situation. So that's another strategy that I think we know. I speak personally, I know about that, but I kind of have to remind myself about it, because we tend to forget when things are not going very well in our lives. So it's important to remind ourselves to focus on the positive. Developing resiliency. So some people you come to this world with a lot of resiliency. It's like genetically it's just easy for them. Plus maybe they were raised in an environment that was very resilient and supporting, so it's more natural for them. But for others who lack or have not developed, um, optimal coping mechanisms, or people who have been through a lot of hardship during their lives, it may be more difficult to be resilient. It's not being weak, it's just depends on so many factors. So it's important also, as part of stress management, to look at how can I develop and take care of my resiliency. um, Being resilient is kind of the ability to bounce back, in front of hardship. So it doesn't mean you're perfect, or that everything is going well, but it has to do a lot with an attitude about what's going on and what's difficult. So again, as I was talking about negative self-talk, well, being resilient or developing resilience is also taking a step back and saying, okay, what are my strategies? What have I done in the past to deal with hardship or difficult situation? How can I apply this to now? Um, it's it's really looking at all the resources, whether it's social support that you have, although we're from a distance, we can stay connected with people who help us or, bring us, good in our lives. So that's important. And really reach out if we need help, and not give up. But again, I know it's harder sometimes depending where we are in our lives, but definitely resilience is important in dealing with stress and difficult situation. Um, Again, as part of resilience and more positive self-talk, looking at the bright side. So, for example, if you're where you work, it's closed for a month, and it will have an impact financially on you. Well, maybe the bright side is that, for years you've been wanting, I don't know, to redecorate your bedroom or read a few books or spend more time with your kids. So maybe now's the time. So that's part of looking on the bright side. New procedures. There was a lot of adaptation and adjustment and working from home and using the net. I definitely, went through that. So, but it's like, okay, we're learning new things, new technology, and then it's going to be easier. So it's accepting that, you know what, I've got this. I'm not perfect. I need to learn, but I've got this. So this is part again of more positive self-talk. And as part of preventing anxiety and dealing with stress, obviously, if you take care of yourself in terms of what you eat, eating well, uh, exercising, sleeping enough, pleasant activities that will create endorphins, uh, all of that will be great for you and will improve your resiliency. So endorphins are created with every positive activities, whether it's exercising, laughing, relaxation, meditation, all of that. It does increase the creation of endorphins, and endorphins help with symptoms of stress, with chronic pain, with symptoms of depression, and it actually has a positive impact also on sleep. So get moving, okay? Breathing exercises are can be part of yoga, relaxation, meditation techniques, but really breathing exercises are easy and very accessible, so you can do them like everywhere. And anytime during the day, and it doesn't cost anything. So I won't be able to do the exercise with you today, but what's important to remember is that there's a difference between breathing with, sorry, I'm losing the word in English, the thorax, compared to breathing with the abdomen. So this is very important. So you can practice using a box of tissue paper, and the box actually has to go up with your abdomen. So I suggest that you Google maybe breathing exercises. You have some on YouTube. You have some, on all kinds of websites for free where they will guide you. But this is very important because when we breathe, when we practice deep breathing, it actually has an impact and frees the diaphragm. And when you free the diaphragm, research has shown that it does have an impact on the central nervous system, the one that brings back peace to your mind and your body. So, good breathing is very important as part of stress management. And if you feel the need to talk because you feel in distress, depressed, very anxious, or you're not sure about your symptoms and if they're normal, or you just need to be guided, please call the employee assistance program and the 24/7 free line that SSQ created for you. The number is on the screen right now. There's also Info Social 811. This is for Quebec. my guess is that some of you are in other provinces in Canada, so you do have phone numbers for other provinces, but the SSQ line is for everyone, so it's toll free. So if it's for support, counseling, crisis, whatever your concerns are, you can also obtain advice about maybe financial or legal matters that are creating a lot of anxiety for you. So this is part also of the program. So I encourage you to reach out. And again, in conclusion, the best way to prevent and better deal with anxiety and anxiety symptoms is really to, self-care, take care of yourself and reach out and understand that stress is normal, so we can't avoid it. Um, and anxiety symptoms also are normal. So if we have the expectations that we will never feel anxious, well, we may well be disappointed. But our thoughts and our attitude, our perception of a situation will have an impact on how we deal with the situation. And there are many stress management techniques that are available to you. And I know SSQ, I think, Jose, on the website, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there may be a few suggestions for that.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, okay. And I know there are many free kind of webinars or programs that are out there for, physical exercise at home, training, because gyms are closed. And so there are many resources out there for you.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. So this concludes, what I wanted to cover with you. It's fast. We didn't go into detail, but I think it's a good reminder of themes that are very important for you to continue with self-care.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Sylvie, for this the way you're presenting some of the coping mechanisms that we can certainly apply in our day-to-day life in this very unusual circumstance. So
and uncertain.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Before we move to the question period, I would like to provide additional information to link a bit with what Sylvie was mentioning. So for those of you who would like additional information on health and wellness tools, you can access a very interesting site which is sponsored by SSQ. This site is www.biencanadien.ca, which spells BIENCANADIENS.ca. So this is for health and wellness tools that talks about physical and psychological tools that you can use from a health and wellness perspective. If you wish to have, we do have currently a lot of information around COVID-19, but so you know, either on the federal government side or on the provincial government website, you will also get very interesting information on COVID-19. So you can access that by www.quebec.ca. And we would also like to inform you that next week, or more specifically on May 6th, SSQ will be hosting another very interesting webinar that will be also facilitated by me, and our speaker will also be Sylvie Roseberry as of today. So this webinar will be talking about return to work, again, around the crisis that we are living in with COVID-19. So we invite you to all register for this event on SSQ's website. And as for questions, I see that we do have an interesting question that popped up. The question, Mrs. Roseberry, is around EAP services. So we would like to know that because of the crisis, have you seen an increase in the utilization rate of EAP programs?
Okay, so we looked at the numbers from March and April of last year compared to this year, and it shows that there is calls are a bit less frequent um, right now. And my guess is that it's because, with everything that happened and all the, reorganizations of our lives and being at home with family and kids, I think maybe, I don't think people needed the EAP less, but I think it was probably not the best situations to call, especially that in-person meetings are not taking place right now. So you need to be at home using your phone or your computer. So maybe the environments were not as facilitating calling the EAP. We did see a rise of calls in terms of maybe crisis calls or people in more distress, and a lot of calls from employers who wanted assistance in dealing with employees who were not doing well. But I checked today and calls are starting to rise again. There's also the fact that maybe people were busy calling the government for, financial assistance or, unemployment and all of that. So I think it's normal, but it's on the rise again. But yeah, we did see a small decline.
And we also know that there's been like special also services that have been put in place, such as line crisis and so on, which can defer people from going to the EAP process.
Yes, that's true. Yes. Yes.
So I don't see any additional questions. If some people do, it is the time to ask your question, please. In the meantime, I would like to thank you all for your participation in today's webinar. As mentioned earlier, I'd like to remind all of you that the webinar will be made available within the next 24 hours on our website. Again, the website is ssq.ca/rendezvous virtuel, RENDEZ VOUSVIRTUELS. And is there other questions on the chat? I don't see additional questions. No, okay. So I'd like to conclude by saying that we wish all of you to be safe, and please take care, and hopefully we'll be seeing you next week on the Return to Work webinar. Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you for being there.